Welcome to the Green Nurse Podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good or be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. You deserve to feel good. We all deserve to feel good. And before we get started on our show, I have a little video to share with you all, and it has to do about what we do in this space as cannabis nurses. And then we're going to get into the amazing show today with Bryan Paulhus.
Change the paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship, and what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
It's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers.
Okay, growing in health, growing in cannabis, growing in Essiac Tea. Hey everybody, my name is Sherry Mack and I'm the Chief Nursing Officer and co-founder of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse and Vice President of Nursing at Bloom Hemp CBD. I'm a cannabis nurse, cannabis patient, advocate, and a very passionate podcaster here to change the paradigm of healthcare. And I'm really excited to announce that this is my 8th year podcasting The Green Nurse Living Your Best Life. I started podcasting in 2018 when the National Council of State Boards of Nursing came out with their guidelines that all nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. I started podcasting to share compelling stories of healing and to decrease stigma, since I too use cannabis as medicine. But before we get started on our very exciting show, we do have a message from our sponsors. I have to pull up our sponsors. The show wouldn't be possible without them. And a big thank you to Bloom Hemp CBD. Bloom Hemp is a woman and nurse-owned national CBD supplier, leading with quality, safety, and value and patient-centered care. Bloom Hemp products are USDA organic CBD hemp grown in the mountains of Colorado and tested for purity, potency, and cannabinoid and terpene profiles. Bloom Hemp is proud to offer a free nurse line to answer questions, explain how and why CBD works in the body. Thank you so much to bloomhemp.com. Okay, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. So cannabis nursing, as you all know, has been recognized as a specialty, and nurses are truly making an impact on advocating for the safe therapeutic use of cannabis by teaching on the endocannabinoid system and how to optimize cannabis and CBD as a medicine for health, healing, and wellness purposes. As plant medicine nurses, our role extends beyond recommending cannabis and hemp products, and we strive to provide alternative solutions for multiple modalities, including herbal supplements that may support and nourish the endocannabinoid system, promoting health, healing, and overall wellness. And that brings me in to introduce our guest today. Today, we are joined by Bryan Paulhus, the owner of Genuine Essiac Tea. With decades of experience since 1986, Bryan was trained by the very physician who collaborated with the Canadian nurse, Rene Caisse, to conduct groundbreaking research on Essiac Tea. Essiac Tea is an 8 herbal blend with a rich history and is widely known for its potential benefits in detoxification, immune support, and overall wellness. While research continues to evolve, many of the key ingredients are packed with bioactive compounds that may influence the endocannabinoid system through immune system modulation, anti-inflammatory effects, and antioxidant properties. Very excited to welcome Bryan to the show. Welcome, Bryan. Thank you for being on here. Really excited to get into the questions on Essiac Tea.
This is right up my alley, what you guys are doing. I'm a big believer in cannabis. Like, I think it's one of the things that the stigma of all these years, they're discovering that it's just the opposite, that we have things that are made by God, are basically our bodies are designed for this intake. And, well, I'll just start with that and let you take it from there. So.
Yes. I mean, it is so true. I mean, when I found myself on the other side of the bed back in 2012, sick and suffering on 18 pharmaceuticals, I'll tell you what, I was not a happy camper, and no one told me about cannabis as medicine. No one told me about anything. It was just one pill and one procedure after another, until it was a 70-year-old nurse that introduced me to cannabis, and again, nursing is the most trusted profession for 23 years in a row. This was a 70-year-old nurse who came to my house and said to me, "Sherry, get with the program. Cannabis has been legal in Massachusetts since 2012. I'm hoping that it's going to be legal recreationally soon." So she literally opened up my eyes, and she disclosed to me that her father was a pharmacist. And back in his heyday, back in the 1920s, he carried cannabis formulations in his pharmacy, and that she had been using cannabis as a medicine every day since the age of 17. So when I was sick and suffering and on all those pharmaceuticals, I had to take a look at that. But today's show, we really want to talk about other things. So as cannabis and plant medicine nurses, it's really truly about nourishing the endocannabinoid system, optimizing how we can naturally influence this system for health, wellness, and healing. And oftentimes, patients, like I say, healthcare is not what it used to be. And it's become the sick care industry. And so a lot of patients and people are taking their health into their own hands and really truly trying to learn about all of these different plants and modalities that exist out in the world today to help them truly live their best lives and stay out of the hospital as much as possible. I'm not anti-pharma. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm all about informed use and using things appropriately when you need to use them.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think we're coming from the same background. I was not, I first found out about what we have, which is medicinal plants, and I laughed at it. I was taught, like everyone else, you need traditional medicine, and to think that a bag of herbs could do anything productive. And I was totally ignorant. I had no idea. I was actually raised without any sort of religion, so I didn't even realize the concept that God could create medicinal herbs. I didn't realize that our bodies were designed. The endocannabinoid system is designed by God. This is part of the design of nature and God to create these things. So what we've seen in the last maybe, I'd say 15 years has been an incredible awakening of the fact that these plants are designed by God to be utilized, whereas, people have always thought there'd be some level of abuse or something. Everything on the planet has a level of use or abuse. If you take my stuff to excess, it's abusive. But the wonderful thing is I've seen cannabis. I've seen what it's done for people. I've seen it for people in my family. And I've seen how in conjunction, Essiac does the same. Well, it kind of enhances it. Essentially, it's reducing inflammation. Also, what it's doing is taking your digestion and your digestive system and anything you put into your body, cleaning out your body so you can really absorb what you're taking better. So you've got the enhancement just by the lessening of the inflammation, less toxins, and now the intake of these medicinal herbs is just enhanced that much more. But what people have, but I personally, I've used cannabis. I've had some trouble, and I was, at first I was raised in that conservative, and then I just was like, okay, we'll give this a try. And I had sciatic issues, and that was my enlightenment, and it worked. And I had headaches, and it worked. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. But for all of these decades, it was denied. And to think the tragedy that so many people have been denied this over the years, and it's just now getting to the point where people are starting to say, wow, they're not only, it's not only is it not bad, it's a spectacular solution to so many things that people are suffering from.
Yep. I completely agree with you. So let's dig into the history of Essiac tea. For the new viewers that don't know what it is, well, first of all, what is Essiac tea and what are the origins of the history of Essiac?
Okay. Essiac tea is a combination of 8 medicinal herbs, all of which have anti-nausea, anti-tumor, anti-cancer properties. They help with digestion, help with elimination of toxins in the body. It's just everything that really, when you look at this, although it has a lot of these properties, the primary thing is it's cleaning out your digestive tract. And what you'll find is there are a lot of things out there that you take that claim to be really good at dealing with cleaning out your digestive tract. And you'll take them for maybe a week or so, go to the bathroom like 50 times and think, I really did what I needed to do to clean my body out. Right. Well, essentially what you've done is taken the easy bulk layer of toxins off of your digestive tract. It's comparable to cooking eggs and burning the eggs, but you can take the spatula and just remove 95% of the eggs, but that burnt on mess that's on the pan, that's the hard to clean part. Essentially, Essiac is something that these herbs get the hard to clean part at the end to finish the job. Kind of like, steel wool it gets, your pan clean.
So I'm going to say something really gross, but is it like, so it's like cleaning your crusty colon?
Well, it's funny because
pretty much.
Like I use that analogy all the time because everyone thinks if they go to the bathroom all day, they're like, I got rid of all my toxins. You've gotten rid of the the bulk, easily available toxins, but it has to be done to completion because you need a pristine digestive tract to stop the inflow from the intestinal walls into the bloodstream of toxins. So until you do it to completion, it's really, it's a process that's going to be, you'll kind of deceive yourself thinking you've completed it. But if you take Essiac, because it's a more moderate thing that can be sustained every single day, taken 3 times a day, it's like a scrub brush going through your intestines 3 times a day. And over the course of several months, that last stuck on layer, it eventually gets cleared off. And in that, the beauty of that is you mentioned, the systems of the body, digestion, the endocannabinoid, everything is enhanced because everything that enters into the body is digested by a pure filtering system. So that is what Essiac is. And so you clean up the blood, what happens next? Everything thrives. Your immune system thrives. Your digestion of nutrients thrives. Every supplement, medicine that you're taking, it is really absorbing at a higher efficiency rate. So that's what Essiac is. Now, how did it come to be?
Yes.
This is really this is really an interesting story. A nurse in 1922 was doing her rounds, and she noticed one of her patients had a lesion on her breast and asked about it. And she said, well, it was from 20 years before. They were unsuccessful treating her breast cancer. And so she opted to go to an Ojibwe Indian medicine man and got this 4-herb formula that was used, and it basically it basically emitted the tumor through the skin and left a little lesion as the end result. So that's why it was noticed. That's what started the discussion. So the nurse, her name is Rene Caisse, Rene Caisse, is Caisse. It's a French last name. It's called Essiac because her name spelled backwards is Essiac. That's how it began. So she wrote down these 4 herbs, put the note in a drawer, and did nothing for 2 years. And then 2 years later, her aunt developed cancer. And she said, I've got these 4 herbs. So I might as well try it on her. And it worked. And she's like, oh, my goodness, we've got something here. So she started a clinic in Ontario in which people would start, slowly coming, gain popularity. And for decades, she practiced at this clinic, and people came to her from all over the world, not just Canada. And the results were so extraordinary, it came up for a vote by the Canadian government after people petitioned to, see if they could approve this as a means of treatment. It failed by 3 votes. And very close. At that moment, she had nowhere to go with this. And that's when she was invited down here to Massachusetts, right near us, where they had a great, one of the people that spearheaded herbal medicine and research was actually President Kennedy's personal physician, Dr. Charles Brusch. He was working here in Massachusetts down the road about 25 miles. His research center dealt with cancer and everything else. So she came down at the invite of Dr. Brusch and spent 8 years taking that original 4-herb formula and working with a team of 18 physicians, first establishing safety levels. How much of each herb could you use, have no side effects, no issues or anything like that. So they safe medicinal levels. That was their starting point. And then they also researched how well this 4-herb original formula worked. And of course, being a research center, that was their baseline. They started there, and then they started the fun part, which was taking that 4-herb formula that they now knew had a certain efficiency rate, an effectiveness rate, and then trying different other herbs that were tested for their potential. And as each herb showed some potential, the bad ones were eliminated, the good ones were included. They tried, over the course of 8 years with 18 physicians working on this. They eventually combined the ones that had the most promise, tweaked it, added and tweaked over time. And at the end of the process, they had a formula with 8 herbs instead of 4 herbs. It still had the original core 4 herbs. So you're not getting anything different necessarily. You're just getting the same plus the additional herbs. So the 8-herb formula isn't different in the sense of you're abandoning the original 4 herbs. They're still at the core of it. It's just that you've got the additional herbs that make it much more effective. So that's what we have here. I started this in 1986. I was 21 years old. I was, my mother's boyfriend's mother had passed away from pancreatic cancer. And so he was a fisherman, and he went to the fish market one day, and the people at the fish market heard that she had passed away, and they just had this offhanded mention about, we wish we had known about this because there's this stuff called Essiac Tea at this fish market that we think, could have helped. I'll get to the reason it's at the fish market in the first place a little bit down the road. But we came home. Well, he came home and talked to us, and we knew several people that had cancer. So we told them, well, for what it's worth, they have these herbs at a fish market. You might want to go to the fish market and go try it. These people that we knew. So about 7 or 8 months later, we ran into both of them, and they were both in remission. Shocking to us. We're like, oh my God. So what did they do? They told everyone, and we told everyone. So then it just continued. So everyone in the region started going to this fish market. So why did the fish market have the Essiac Tea? Well, This man had another fish market 25 miles south of there in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right next to the research lab where it was being developed. So when the doctor and the nurse came in, they became good friends. And that's how it ended up at a fish market. So again, we find out about this. And so now the whole region is starting to take interest in it. And this fish market still is primarily a fish market. And they asked our family, they're like, do you think you could probably help us out here and do it out of your home? Because we're trying to run the business. So we ended up doing that. And it looked like a drug ring because we had Ziploc bags and people would come at all hours of the day and we'd hand them to them and they'd come and go. But it became so popular, it became unmanageable. And that eventually was kind of transformed into a monthly cancer support group that we did. And we did that for several years. And that was until the early 90s when a couple of the people in the group were affiliated with a TV station in New Hampshire that had a talk show. And when they went into remission, the talk show took a great interest. And they had my mother and a lot of the people in the crowd were from this group and the panel. And it was a very primitive thing because they just asked questions. Did you have cancer? Yes, I did. Did you take conventional treatment? No, I didn't. Do you have cancer now? If you can imagine these old New Englanders, just simply, it's just a different time. Mm-hmm. Nope, didn't take anything. And then they go to another. And it was very unspectacular. And we were very naive because we thought it was cool to see mom on TV. Mm-hmm. But we were so naive, we didn't project ahead about what this could be as far as the influence to be on TV. So this was just a support group with no distribution, just, So after the TV show, they informed us that there were 1,500 people that wanted it the next day. And we were in a panic because we just didn't have it. We didn't know how to make it. So I had to urgently meet with Dr. Brusch, again, President Kennedy's physician, the man that did all the research. And he, in a hurry, he's a great guy, just took me, got me the machines. I was capable of lifting the heavy bags to do it in mass quantities. I thought I'd have a job for the summer, and that was it. I didn't think ahead. And then every time someone got well, kept getting mail order, no internet, mail orders, and kept growing. And I just kept making more and more of the stuff. Then we went online. And so by complete dumb luck, here I am, almost 40 years later. And it's just been the strangest thing because I never would have predicted a life of this. And it's certainly, I wouldn't call it even close to a passion or anything. It was just a stumbling in a direction and then drawn into it. And so I feel the initial intimidation. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? Because this is the most important thing you can offer someone. It's their lives are being threatened. So this is something we take very seriously. And we try to support with every means possible, whether it be email or personal, support lines. But in the end, it wasn't by choice, but I got comfortable knowing that we have the best offer there is, the best thing to offer. We do something unusual here. We take care of everyone, regardless of financial circumstances. We work with everyone. We have a 6-month money back guarantee. Years ago, I had an identical twin brother who passed away from ALS, and we spent $30,000 on people that just promised the world and gave us nothing. And I watched him die with a lot of anxiety. We had anxiety because of that. So due to his blurting out one day about this should never happen again, 20 years ago, we started something that's never been heard of. This is what we say it is. And if it is, we should be able to walk the walk. So for 20 years, we've had a policy where if this doesn't improve your cancer, your health, whatever you're dealing with, you get every dime back. We can't make a dime unless it works because there are so many people preying on the needy. but it
Yeah.
also is a reflection of the consistency. If we can do that, that means it's actually working at a high degree, because even moderate failure would mean devastation from a business perspective. But seeing that impact kind of enlightened me for what you have. That's what made me entertain, trying something that used to have a stigma. And it's unbelievable that it ever did. To have cannabis have a stigma and to get the experience that I used to have headaches at the base of my skull. And because of my what I initially mocked is that plants can actually work years ago, here I am immersed in this, and here I am entertaining this and getting the benefit. And so our research scientists, we have a person doing research on DNA and Essiac. He's one of the first people. He's like, you realize the endocannabinoid system is meant for the treatment of the body and the health of the well-being. And this works well with Essiac. He's like, because it's actually all meant to heal, and it's meant to be transferred. And bodies are your consciousness in your body. You're supposed to feel good and actually be healthy. And he says to me, that's why it's working for you, because you take the Essiac and you're getting the enhanced, impact. And I was like, I felt great. So yeah, plants are amazing.
And it supports, and that's what I love too. And I really, I've been on your products now since I think November, and I've been in your Facebook groups and been paying attention, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just phenomenal how that this can work with other modalities. You don't have to stop your other modalities. It's an integrated approach. And that's and how you can take it with other pharmaceuticals, you can take it with other treatments. It's a complementary, and it works. I've been actually very blown away by it. I learned about it years ago, but kind of put it on the back burner because I was doing other things. And then, of course, when health crises come up and challenges come up, my partner had a COVID-19 vaccine injury. And so we've had to deal with that and doing a lot of detoxification. And so we put her on it, and we're seeing really, really, really good results.
I know. We have a group in Israel. They contacted me just before the October 7th, a few months before, and they started using it in their clinic for vaccine injured and people with COVID. And unfortunately, I haven't talked to them in a little over a year. But as of last check, they were still having great results. Haven't had official research. This is just our discussions. So it's surprised me at times. At times, it's disappointed me, though. There are times when Essiac has its limitations, like anything. There are certain neurological aspects of it that are you're not going to be successful. It's not a cure-all for everything type of thing. They want to say it is actually a treatment that does wonders for certain things that are inflammation-based or toxicity-based.
Yes.
But there are other things, it is.
That's what I was going to ask you. What are the top conditions that people come to you for Essiac?
Well, it's
I know cancer is one of them.
Yeah, cancer is the primary thing, but diabetes, type 2 diabetes, because essentially when you clean out the digestive tract, it cleans out the blood. And when you clean out the blood, now you take the toxic elements that are flowing into the liver and the pancreas, and they are no longer, basically clogging up the function. And they have a kind of a communication with blood sugar. They both have to be operating. In a clean bloodstream, they operate in, as they're designed to, as God designed them to. So blood sugar, but we had a study on DNA done in 2023, in which we had we had X-ray technicians that had a low dose exposure to radiation, which is, believe it or not, more harmful than a high flash. It's low dose over time, and they had their blood drawn, and they assessed their DNA and cholesterol and everything, and then they gave them Essiac Tea. And everyone in the study had between a 33 to 50% reduction in their DNA damage in their body. It reversed DNA damage. So it's got essentially, it's why the guy that met me is like, you look young for a reason. I don't know if you know that. he says, it's because you're taking something that actually reverses it. We first started with mice studies that we presented in Canada. But again, the other surprise is everyone in the group had lower cholesterol. And other people are taking this for their blood pressure. Those are, the primary things. And autoimmune conditions, my wife in late 2007, before we went to a trip to Florida, developed lupus, and it was horrific. Digestive issues, emergency surgeries, real trouble from late 2007 through 2013-ish. Really, Essiac was something that she dabbled in, but it was my family, but she tried it. And she's made dietary changes. It's not just the Essiac, but she has none of the symptoms. And it was a horrible thing for us for several years and many trips to the emergency room. So, but I don't know what the limitations are as far as like all autoimmune. It helped her with that. But there are several others, and people ask me, and I don't always know for sure, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it just seems that, just like if it modulates the endocannabinoid system in such a way, right? So, the research that I did, for anti-inflammatory support. So some compounds in the herbs may inhibit inflammation, which is partially regulated by the CB2 receptors that we have in the immune system. The antioxidant activity, reducing oxidative stress, can help preserve endocannabinoid function and protect CB1 and CB2 receptors that we produce upon demand.
That
right?
real quick, I have to interject there. It does
Sure.
that. You do the oxidative stress. There are studies about Essiac and oxidative stress and reducing that. What is it? The ROS or whatever.
Yes, the reactive oxygen species.
Yes. And how the improvement in that's actually what Essiac in 2 studies has been found to do. And some strange things happen as a result. People's hair start to change. If you've probably seen it in the group, it's grown in thicker and darker. There's a gentleman about a month ago that had that post, and several others. So there are some weird things that go on there. But essentially, what happens there is the plugs that clog the hair follicles. Since Essiac is eliminating everything from the body, the first available exit for that plug is out of the body, and the little wispies start to grow again. So it's weird what I've seen happen over the years. It's bizarre at times.
Wow, that's just fascinating. And then the other thing too that I learned about Essiac tea and immune modulation. So some of the ingredients, some of the herbs can regulate the immune response, which also activates and impacts the CB2 receptor system.
Yes, it does.
Right? And then the gut health and the microbiome support is huge, since the gut microbiome influences endocannabinoid production, right? That's key. We produce internal endogenous cannabinoids upon demand. Essiac tea's gut supporting properties may indirectly support endocannabinoid system function and help us to produce more of our own internal endogenous cannabinoids appropriately,
Exactly.
which is key, right? And so, and that's key for patients that, in particular, that need to use cannabis as medicine, but don't want to be using high doses. So combining cannabinoids with Essiac tea, this is kind of where I'm going with a lot of the patients that are coming to us.
Yeah, and they all work together. And it's really, I think if I would have taken, CBD without the Essiac, only in theory, I assume I would have had a lesser impact. But I don't know. I never did that. But the fact of the matter is, something like slippery elm is really digestively helping to enhance CBD to work. It is soothing. It does all sorts of things digestively, so that if you look, obviously you've seen some of this research. It's amazing some of the digestive things that go on, not just the elimination of toxins, but the ability to reduce inflammation and enhance digestion and soothe the digestive tract. They're, I never.
And then for our viewers that are new, okay, this is something that a lot of people don't know. Our enteric nervous system runs from our mouth to our butt. communicates to our central nervous system via the endocannabinoid system. So you can just imagine that.
I didn't know that.
Yes, isn't that
That's the most
fascinating?
fascinating thing I've heard in a while. Wow.
Yeah. So that's a wow for me as well, because
Wow.
right.
Okay,
So
got
that
it.
gut health, improving gut health can also improve our brain function
Yeah.
and how we think and how we feel and how we modulate the stress response.
Wow.
Right.
I'm going to steal that one, by the way. I'm going to throw that around. I'll sound smart at parties now. That's
Right.
it really is. All joking aside, that's massive.
It
Yeah,
is.
communication to the body. Yeah.
And for the viewers that are out there as well, we produce 90% of serotonin in our gut. So the healthier the gut, the healthier the serotonin production.
Exactly. And that's why they talk about mental health. They talk about the correlation between mental health and your gut health.
Yeah.
And it's no coincidence, as you start to feel better, as you start to eat better, you start to actually mentally have more clarity. You don't, it's just, but the body is it's a complete comprehensive network of everything functioning together. And if you get any of these things either stagnated or interfered with, they run interference, and it's the log jam in the truest sense, the log jam in the river, and it stops flowing. And if you have that, it kind of spirals. So enhancing kind of opens the doors for more health exponentially. Every time you do something right, it leads to something else that can then work. So yes.
So for our viewers, we love to hear stories. You know, storytelling is one of my passions. And so what I would love to hear is maybe 2 of your favorite stories of some success stories that your customers have experienced. I know there's a lot of them because I see the ads.
You're asking for 2?
I know there's a lot. Your 2 favorites, the 2 that most stand out.
Okay, let me think. I have Paul. He's one of our testimonials that you'll see on our site and stuff.
Is he the guy with the long hair, the long white hair?
No, that's Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim in Alaska sitting in the field.
Yeah,
that's him. Paul called me up stage 4. He's 93 years old now.
Wow.
Called me up 20 years ago, stage 4. Very just simple delivery. Yep, get stage 4. Well, I'm not going to do it. Didn't get too wordy. Just kind of chuckled. And I've been, for 20 years after stage 4, he's been completely as coherent, mobile, healthy as any man you'll ever see. But I mean, I just seen so many. I had a woman, this woman, Grace, called me up. She was stage 4, and it was in her bones, which is a challenge. There's kind of a hierarchy of treatment, and the bones, it's the toughest area. And I said, hey, you've got to amp it up. You're just not taking enough. And honestly, I can't be sure when it's in the bones. It's a tougher challenge. Yeah. And that's the reality. I said, but it's your best chance. And Grace called us up, thrilled with that. And she's still doing quite well. And she's a grandmother and so on. But another one, when it hits home, I have a friend who I had worked with for years ago. I delivered pizza. He was my manager, okay? And then I didn't really see much of him. And then he went through this horrific episode of bladder cancer and treatment. And then he caught up with me later. And he's like, hey, I've got it again. I can't do that again. And it was really something, because I'm like, hey, just take as much as you need. And I hadn't seen him for a few months. And then I got a call on the way back from Mass General Hospital, I think it was. Coming back to the doctors, he's like, Bryan. I'm like, what? He goes, yes, don't mind my face. Like, that shit really works. I'm like, yeah, I know. He goes, I just got back from my doctor. He goes, I did nothing with my bladder cancer, and I have nothing right now. That was probably 12 years ago. And the beautiful thing is, he got back in touch with one of the women that he had a crush on that we used to deliver pizza together. And they got married 2 years ago, and now they're just, doing great. He's cancer free. So, it impacts us as well.
Yeah.
We've had just so many different interactions, just thousands.
Well, then that leads me to my next question. So how many customers have you served over the years?
It's in the 6 digits. It's just, I don't even know. Because
Thousands and
we
thousands.
go to clinics all over the world, distributors. We have a high volume. I would be so far off if I guessed. I could, don't even know.
All right. Well, here's a question then for you. How much bigger is your staff now compared from when you started?
You're looking at the old staff. So yeah, you're looking at the guy, but in all seriousness, I did it. And now, I don't know, maybe we have 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've really done a good job of the Henry Ford theory of automation and
Yep.
really taking things in the role. But the very specific. Essiac is, no matter what they tell you, see, people take advantage of people when they're sick.
I know.
These herbs are not expensive. So our whole goal is buy a decent one-time volume. We'll get it about $1 a day. Our whole thing is since 1986, keep it down, because Dr. Brusch said, keep it down. And so we've done that. And so for $1 a day with a complete money back guarantee, that's what we do. We give the research studies to support it. We'll deal, but there's it's an unregulated industry. So you'll find a lot of misinformation about Essiac and fear mongering meant to drive you away from the truth into more expensive, less effective formulas that may even have more appeal. They may taste better or something, and they'll sell the appeal. But there's a lot being done wrong with Essiac, and I don't mean to say, oh, we're right and everyone else is wrong, but the fact is, it's actually the truth. We're doing it right. We send you something that is the ugliest and least pleasant tasting version of Essiac there is. And so how do you know we're not a scam? Because if I'm going to make a fake version of it, the last thing I'm going to do is send you something that has murky herbs floating in it and doesn't taste good. But these are the real thing. They are there because of the medicinally most effective things and little things to do, like mix it with some lemon juice. They take care of the whole thing, but they try to drive people saying, they make up formulas. They say, try ours, it tastes better. Well, that would be like saying, an ice cream cone is better than spinach. If we're trying, taste isn't the issue. It's the spinach, and we're comparable to that. It's less pleasant to drink and much more effective.
Well, I have found over the course of taking Essiac tea myself that everything, that my taste buds are more alive and I'm more sensitive to things, specifically sweetness. Everything tastes really sweet. So I cannot even tolerate sugar anymore, which is actually good for me. But it's very interesting that my taste buds have, my palate has changed as a result, but in a good way, that I am now actually craving healthier foods. And things that are sweet are often too sweet. Like, I'm just like, no, that's too sweet. I would prefer. So it's really interesting how my palate has changed as a result of this. And my health is actually, in other areas, has improved as well.
It really does. And that's because your best way I could put it is when you're compromised with toxins, it takes a lot to get through and you're conditioned. So you're not really getting the absorption of things. So it takes a lot more to get the absorption of everything. So everything you need more of, more fats, more sugars to get, because you're not getting that filter that's just getting it directly. So as a result, you get what used to be the hit or satisfactory hit of sugar, and now it's being absorbed so much it feels like it's too much.
Yeah.
So the toxins run interference for a lot of things and change the way you ingest things. And I honestly believe that's one of the reasons that we're having some obesity issues. Obviously not some, a high degree in this country, is because that conditioning to satiate the body our ancestors never consumed these things.
Right.
So we're consuming stuff that 150 years ago they wouldn't imagine. The food dies. So now what's happening is they clog up the filters. They are literally the things that are interfering with the natural flow and absorption of elimination and absorption of nutrients.
Yes.
So what do? We get it, and we're not quite getting enough because it's clogged. Well, we need more. And we need more just to get the same, to be satiated to the degree we used to be. We have to kind of put more through the system, and we're gaining weight. So as a weight loss thing, there are some people that lose weight, not a lot, to be honest with Essiac. Some do, but there are driving forces that are bigger sometimes. Some people just like junk food.
Yeah.
But for those who are in tune like you are, yeah, we've got a lot of people that just, that have really felt the dictating of how they're, and respected that. But
Yeah.
you got to be in tune with it.
And then it also, when we go back to endocannabinoid system education and how to nourish it, fast food, fried food, fake food, artificial flavors, artificial coloring, trans fat, hydrogenated oil, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, and
Yummy.
alcohol, all of those things when it comes to endocannabinoid system, right?
Yeah.
So basically an Essiac tea, and for me, is a way for people to get in 8 herbs that they normally wouldn't get into their diet. So your microbiome and your gut need multiple different types of herbs and plants, not just one thing. And so this is just another dietary enhancement to improve overall health as well. So for those people that just, that aren't sick, that, don't have a condition, that just want to get a better, change their palate and eat
Feel better. Yeah.
Feel better.
And it's just really as simple as this. Whatever you're putting into your body is going to, with Essiac tea, have a more pure interaction with your body.
Yeah.
Just
Makes
that simple.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So for some of the new viewers that are here, how long does it take for Essiac tea to work? Like, what is if I'm a new patient, let's just pretend I'm a new person that came to you and said, hey, I've got I want to work on my cholesterol, and I've got an autoimmune, pain disorder. And how would you recommend them?
Well, because the process is one in which you have to hit a certain threshold of cleansing to get there. It is, I always talk about the time frame. An aspirin takes 25 minutes to work. You'd be crazy to think that, 10 minutes later after taking it, that your headache will be going away, because you're familiar with that. If you're familiar with Essiac, this process of cleansing your intestinal tract to its pristine, original, state of being, 4.5 to 6 months.
Yep.
And that's when you've got the resources. Okay, your blood is now cleaner. And in a clean bloodstream, that's when your body starts to kick in. Because think about this. You have toxins in your bloodstream. The immune response is fighting the toxins on the way to the tumor.
Right.
And these toxins are also encasing the tumor, which is a physical barrier that basically won't allow for the white blood cells to address the tumor because they can't get in. But even more interesting, the toxins themselves create a little haze, a microenvironment that what's produced in that microenvironment is the exact same substance that the defense cells of the tumor live in.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And this is what the doctor told me years ago is finding out to be true. This is guy in the 50s and 60s telling me this. Then in the 80s, sharing what he learned, and now it's coming true. This is the microenvironment. But here's another thing. Looking at this in terms of, picture almost a sludge of toxins in your bloodstream. Initially, what your body would do you get a little very finite amount of a toxic element because you weren't eating chemicals. Your body would address that toxic element by growing a tumor. Tumor's an adaptive response, but it's adaptive in a way that it's supposed to be. There's not that much to capture. It's basically a citizen's arrest, like holding it in place, and then that tumor would send out into the bloodstream a chemical signaling saying, hey, I'm here. It's like a fire alarm. All the white blood cells they go into the tumor, they invade it. When you go to the bathroom, you just eliminate it naturally. But what's happening now is we're getting that initial introduction of a toxic element, and it's the tumor is starting to grow. And before it can really get the signaling out and can be invaded, there's like this soft landing of all the soot around it, and it starts to encase it. So that means that the signaling that's supposed to go out to direct the white blood cells where the location is, done. Can't get out. So now there's no signaling. So you can have your white blood cells right next to the tumor. It has no idea that right here, I have to go in there. It can't do anything about it. And so that's really the biggest thing. It runs interference, not only in the physical sense, in which it contributes to the thriving of the defense cells of the tumor. It runs interference because it, like an eggshell, it encases the tumor, which takes the signaling out of the equation. So now what happens? You take Essiac, clean off the intestinal walls. Blood is produced over the course of 6 months. That's clean. There's no longer a toxic inflow. Now you have pristine blood. It's not finding the toxins on the way to the tumor. By the time it gets to the tumor outer layer is dissipating over time because there's less toxins fall on it. Eventually, the apoptosis, it basically kills off the defense cells. They die off. Now there's direct access to the tumor, and it's done with a nourished immune system because it's being nourished by a clean digestive tract. So all the above, as God intended, is working at its fullest potential. Wow. And that's 4.5 to 6 months to get there. It's not easy because that whole process, as you can imagine. Yeah. But boy, when it gets there. And so people coming desperate to us, it's like, this is the most desperate thing. We are the most desperate contact they have for many of these people in their lives. Their lives are being threatened. Mm-hmm. And they're on the phone and they're talking to me.
And they're scared.
And at first I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I've been blessed with the ability to have had hardship and know what it feels like to be in their position.
Yes.
And so that's why anyone, people say, oh, it's a bad idea to reduce your price or deal with someone that can't afford it. Well, it's a horrible business plan to give it away to someone that can't afford it unless you're telling the truth. So Dr. Brusch explained it to me this way. Yeah. If you're giving away something that's crap, it's where you're going to spend it, you're going to ship it, you're going to pay for it. There's animosity when it doesn't work. And the seed doesn't get planted. He goes, but if you're telling the truth, someone's social security isn't coming in, they need it, we get it to them. If we aren't telling a lie and we're actually telling the truth, when that person gets well, who do you think is going to shout from the rooftops?
That's right.
So we've done that, and we've done that as it's built into the mix. Of course, we make our living when people pay, and part of that living is to take care of those who can't pay. And that's the way everyone has to get it, because availability is more important than anything. That's it. He said, you've got to make sure they get it. And if you do that, believe it or not, it'll come back as a great, not only for the well-being of the person taking it, but it'll come back to you because it actually does what you say it does. So,
yeah, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Yes. So, okay. One of the final questions I have for you here, I'm going to actually just pull up the website. One of them is, what did you do to grow the company so much over the years? And what means the most to you in terms of what you offer your customers? I'm just going to share I want to share the website.
Yeah. Growing the company, the best way to grow a company is to marry someone smart. I am telling you, the best way to do it is to take your challenge and really look at it objectively. Don't think that you've got this generic thing where everyone says I have to do Facebook or this or that. What you've got to do is take every creative thought you can have to put the needs of the customers out there and say, how can I get this in its truthful sense to someone and express how this can impact them? Yeah. And so in doing that, we've had to go against the grain. We have done some very unconventional things. Things fail more than you can imagine because everyone flows in the same, area. It gets saturated. Sometimes the unconventional approach to go off the beaten path to stand and be telling your message from a different direction has been the thing that has made all the difference, because what we've done is gone from just fact-based to really letting our customers tell the story, our testimonials. We emphasize that, of course, that we have the guarantee, which is, for what it's worth, a statement that no one's ever done, but they need to know that these are real people. This really happened. And if you can get that connection of people and facts together in the assurance and the direct access to people that need help right now, so you pick up the phone and you deal with the emails and you cater to them, that's how you grow the company. It's the only way to get this so that people actually get connected to it.
Yeah. And what I also love too is your website is very, very rich. It's very, very transparent. You have the order, you have the info, how to use, testimonials, benefits, the story about us, a blog. I'm actually writing a blog on Essiac Tea now. I'd love to share it with you. Coupons, contact an Essiac expert, and request a free Genuine Essiac Tea user's guide. The website is very robust, very lovely. And I've been taking this, and I'm giving it the green nurse stamp of approval, because it is really it's a very powerful blend. And the research that I have done on it, on all of the 8 herbs, I actually researched each of them individually. They all support and nourish the endocannabinoid system. So this would be, so for cannabis users that are out there today, people that are using cannabis as medicine, I implore you to investigate and look into Genuine Essiac Tea, honestly. Because really, what is it all about? It is truly about living your best life and helping others do the same, for sure. So this has been an amazing podcast. I've learned so much. Really grateful. All of your contact information, your website. I put a couple of little different things. There was that an amazing story, the little PDF book on that Nurse Rene, I'm saying her name wrong. Rene Caisse is what I call her.
Everyone does. It's Rene Caisse, but yes.
Rene Caisse. I've put a lot of different links there as well. So please explore Bryan Genuine Essiac Tea. He also has a private Facebook group that I'm a member of, and I love going on there. And you guys are very active. People ask questions, and you're always on there answering them. And there's a lot of moderators on there. So you're doing great work. And I'm really honored that you were sharing your time and your story with me, so I can share it with our viewers.
I can't thank you. I find what you're doing to be so incredibly exciting, because really people are just starting to realize what you're doing right now, the impact of the endocannabinoid system is at the core of so many things in our body that it's used. It's like the connective healing pathway, for lack of better ways of putting it.
It is. And that's why I'm excited about this tea, because this tea can help people lower some of their dosages of cannabis so they can get more therapeutic benefits. They go hand in hand. A lot of patients, sometimes, end up taking large doses of THC and CBD, and that can be impairing, and so to have another tool in the toolbox that actually has therapeutic potential to work on this most important system. The endocannabinoid system is the largest neuroregulatory system in our body. It regulates all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling system that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not doing something. So the more that we can nourish that with natural herbs, such as Genuine Essiac Tea, the better the cannabis use is going to be for us overall. And again, in the goal of cannabinoid therapeutics is to take the least amount to get the most therapeutic potential below the threshold of not feeling good, right? There's therapeutic use of cannabis is the use of cannabis for medicinal, wellness, and healing purposes. It is personal and subjective to each consumer, with objective criteria being improvement in one of the 5 health domains without negatively impacting any of the others. Yes. So my job as a cannabis nurse is to make sure that people are utilizing all the tools they can in the toolbox to have that therapeutic response, so they can, again, like I said, my tagline, live their best lives. So Bryan, it has been a pleasure to have you on.
Great talking to you.
Yes, sure. It's been amazing. Don't go away. We're just going to end the show with one of my favorite videos. Okay. And then, in the future, you guys will see this of my blog on Genuine Essiac Tea, as well as this video circulated through social media. So make sure you all take a quick peek. And remember truly what it is all about. It is all about living your best life and helping others do the same. And this is my little ending video.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And you know, the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.